At 80 years old, there's something I have to share that could really surprise you. I squandered half a century in a marriage that was gradually draining the life out of me. Not in a literal sense, though the constant pressure certainly tried, but deep down, emotionally and spiritually, I was fading away bit by bit each day. And the hardest truth? I was fully aware of it. I recognized it back at 30, then again at 40, and even at 50. Yet I remained. It wasn't until I turned 75 that I finally walked away. 75. Can you picture that? Folks around me figured I'd lost my mind after waiting so long. __0_, they'd advise. He won't last forever regardless. But I refused to linger until he passed. I couldn't endure another moment in that chilly, hollow home with someone who rendered me utterly unseen. So I departed. And here's a fact no one cares to accept. That choice was the smartest one I ever made. My sole wish is that I'd taken the step 3 decades sooner. Allow me to rewind to how it all began. I crossed paths with Richard at 19. He was 24, dashing, self-assured, and training to become an attorney. As a nursing student myself, I was reserved and keen to make others happy. He chased after me without mercy, sending bouquets, notes, and vows of commitment. I felt selected, cherished, fortunate. By 21, we'd tied the knot. Those initial years were acceptable, if not spectacular. He logged endless hours at work while I toiled at the hospital. Our place was modest, we shared a circle of acquaintances, and there were moments of real laughter. I figured that's simply how wedded life worked. Everything shifted once I conceived our first child. Richard pulled away, turning sharp and judgmental. No matter what I attempted, it fell short. The home wasn't spotless enough, meals weren't timed perfectly, and I seemed perpetually weary, overly sensitive, excessive in every way. I chalked it up to the shifts in my body from pregnancy, assuming relief would come post-birth. It never did. With our boy's arrival, Richard's barbs grew fiercer. I wasn't shedding the postpartum pounds quickly enough. I fixated too much on the infant. I neglected him entirely. The place was chaos. I embodied chaos. One evening lingers in my memory. I stood in the kitchen cradling our wailing son, surrounded by piled-up plates, when Richard entered, scanned the mess, and remarked, "So, what is it you accomplished during the day?" That was my cue to go, at just 25. Instead, I convinced myself it stemmed from his pressures, his grueling job. I resolved to push myself further, improve, contribute more. Over the next stretch, we welcomed 2 additional youngsters, totaling 3 in half a dozen years. I stepped away from nursing to manage the home around the clock. Richard argued it was the practical choice money-wise, and I went along. My kids, I adored them truly. Still, I felt submerged, bone-tired, buried under it all. Evenings brought Richard home to dissect every flaw he spotted, scarf down his meal, then vanish into his office. If I ventured to express my isolation, the grind of those long days, he'd retort, quote 3 pleas for assistance met with, quote 4, what I craved was an equal, someone who truly noticed me, appreciated my worth, and convinced me I counted for something. But at 30, voicing that felt impossible. Deep inside, I sensed a profound fracture. Time melted into a haze. Our children matured. Richard's professional path soared. He ascended to partner status. We upgraded to a larger residence. To outsiders, we epitomized the ideal family. The thriving attorney, the loyal spouse, the lovely offspring. Within those walls, though, I was shrinking, hollowed out. He never laid a hand on me, make no mistake on that score. Physical violence played no role, but pain can strike through subtler means. Ways to erode a person's sense of value. The endless nitpicking, the icy standoff stretching across days, his glances treating me as a burden, the habit of undermining me before the kids, dictating every choice solo because, in his words, quote 5 at 38, I confided in my mother. Her response, quote 6, my sister got an earful too, quote 7, and so I was. I tally those gratitudes, 3 thriving kids, shelter, sustenance, no visible scars, just the hidden wounds scarring my spirit. By 42, departure loomed large in my thoughts. The children were bigger, self-reliant. Nursing could pull me back in. I could stand on my own. Sleepless nights filled with schemes. But then our second child, Sarah, hit rough patches at school, deep sadness. Her counselor stressed the need for routine. How could I shatter her world amid such turmoil? Thus, I held on. At 50, the urge resurfaced. The young ones were off at university, granting me space. Yet Richard's mother fell ill, leaving him shattered. Abandoning him in that grief, unthinkable. So I endured. At the age of 55, my youngest child finished college, and suddenly it hit me. This was my opportunity. Yet, as grandchildren began to arrive, I convinced myself they required my presence, and my daughter could use my support. It didn't feel right to prioritize myself then, so I remained. By 60, I experienced menopause, which Richard viewed as some kind of insult directed at him. My emotional ups and downs irritated him. The night sweats interrupted his rest, and the shifts in my figure repulsed him. He lingered longer at the office and returned home solely to crash. Our existence resembled that of courteous housemates, distant acquaintances, cohabiting under one roof. When I turned 65, it dawned on me that we hadn't shared a meaningful discussion in ages. Our chats revolved around the grandkids, home upkeep, his job, anything but our relationship, our emotions, or our desires for the future, since there truly was no us to speak of. It had never existed. Richie retired at 68, and I hoped it might spark some positive change. Perhaps with reduced pressure and extra hours, we could bridge the gap. But it only deteriorated. Suddenly, he was around constantly, nitpicking every move I made, the way I packed the dishwasher, sorted the clothes, passed my days. He'd trail me through the rooms, highlighting errors, dispensing unwanted suggestions, leaving me feeling utterly useless in my own space. Panic episodes started hitting me. I'd jolt awake at night, pulse pounding, gasping for air. My physician recommended pills, but Richard dismissed it as over-the-top theatrics. At 72, during a quiet meal, I finally voiced my discontent. Richard, I'm miserable, I told him plainly. Have been for years. We must address our marriage. He stared as if I'd switched to another tongue. Then, quote 11, quote 12, I replied, quote 13. He paused in heavy silence before retorting, quote 14. That moment confirmed it. He had no intention of evolving. He embraced this chilly, hollow dynamic completely. I, however, could not. Therapy became my outlet. My counselor posed a pivotal query. Picture staying wed. What does your future hold in 5 years? 10? The vision was stark. Endless repetition of isolation, nitpicking, erasure, until death claimed one of us. That wasn't the path for my remaining time. I sought legal advice. Richard's wealth was substantial, But so were my claims after over 50 years together. I'd sacrificed my profession, nurtured our kids, backed him unconditionally. I deserved an equal share of our shared accomplishments. The attorney guaranteed my stability. At 74, I informed Richard of my divorce wish. He burst into laughter, genuine mockery. Where to exactly? What's your plan? No one splits at your stage. I'm doing it, I insisted. He scoffed until the documents arrived. Rage followed. The audacity of me, after all he'd supplied. The home, the comforts, the stability. I was labelled ungrateful, self-centred, unhinged. The kids were stunned. Several urged me to reconsider. Quote 17 they'd plead. You've grown accustomed. Consider the grandkids. But I envisioned my granddaughters observing their grandma enduring a diminished existence, implying women must settle for scraps and deem it bounty. My grandsons absorbing that wedlock equals endurance over affection. I refused to pass that on. The split dragged on for a year, with Richard contesting every detail from sheer resentment. Yet at 75, I emerged from the courthouse unbound. I settled into a cozy one-bedroom flat, bathed in sunlight, styled to my exact taste. Book groups filled my schedule, alongside painting lessons. A cat joined my household. I ventured to dream destinations, Italy, Greece, Ireland, and the revelation, pure, authentic happiness. Mornings without apprehension, choices free from judgment, being present without seeming like dead weight. Friendships bloomed anew, genuine ones valuing me as myself, not merely a spouse. Dating even entered the picture at 77. James caught my eye at a gallery. He's 80, widowed, gentle, humorous, eager for my thoughts. We sip coffee, explore exhibits. He clasps my hand, calls me lovely, affirms my worth. It's no sweeping passion, we're beyond such intensity, but it's true partnership, absent from my half-century union. Today, at 80, 5 years post-divorce, I reflect on it all. These past 5 years have brought me more satisfaction than all the 5 decades I endured in my marriage to Richard. Yet what truly shatters me is this. I'm 80 now. I might have just 10 more years if fortune smiles, perhaps 15 at best. And I squandered 50 years of my irreplaceable existence in a union that left me utterly wretched. I ought to have walked away at 45, or 50, or 55. Every additional year I lingered was a lost chance, a slice of happiness I forfeited. For what? Stability, social facades, the children. My grown kids are thriving, forging their own paths. They would have managed just fine had I departed 3 decades back too. Let me share the counsel I desperately needed at 40, at 50, at 60. Clinging to a loveless marriage doesn't elevate you to saintliness. It turns you into a needless victim. There's no award for tolerating what erodes your soul. Nobody will hand out honors for persisting when escape was the wiser path. If your partnership leaves you feeling unseen, bombarded by endless fault-finding, devoid of affection, dignity, or true collaboration, you owe yourself more. You can go. No need to hold out until the children mature. No reason to delay until pension time. We mustn't postpone until age has sapped our chance to start anew. Depart today. Exit while time remains on your side. Slip away while vitality, wellness, and opportunities still allow you to uncover your true self beyond that bond. Judgment will come, inevitably. Folks will label you self-centered, claim you're quitting without effort, insist that wedlock demands grit. True, relationships require effort, but not agony. It mustn't diminish your worth. It can't rob you of delight. You merit genuine connection, real companionship, or failing that, solitude with serenity and independence. Gazing at my current existence, I feel profound contentment, truly so. But reflecting on those squandered decades fuels my rage. I'm furious that society drilled into me the virtue of persistence, that I viewed suffering as obligation, that I deemed departure an act of egoism. Breaking free from Richard wasn't egoism. Persisting surely would have been, dooming my remaining days to acrimony and grudge. That toxicity would have tainted every tie I held dear. Avoid my error. Refuse to postpone self-prioritization until 75. Don't fritter away lifetimes in devotion to one who undervalues you. Existence is fleeting. Even reaching 80 proves it achingly brief. Prioritize your well-being. Embrace delight. Claim liberty. Act swiftly while you can craft something radiant from the fragments. The approval you seek, consider it granted. Go forth, forge a fresh chapter. Find your bliss. It's yours by right. We all merit it.